Hey everybody, it's low-carb and keto nutritionist Amy Berger from 2itnutrition.com bringing you another installment in Keto Without the Crazy. Before we get into today's topic, which is measuring urine ketones, let me remind you as always to check the links below. Do download the free sneak peek of my forthcoming book, The Stall Slayer. Hope to have all 3 versions of the book out by March. We're going to have a PDF version that should be out sometime in the next month. We will also have a print on demand and a Kindle version. And it is about breaking fat loss stalls on low carb or ketogenic diets, which is the #1 most common reason people write to me. Why am I not losing weight? So do download that free preview. If you are struggling with fat loss right now, in the meantime, before my book comes out, you can download the page 4 diet below. That is Dr. Westman's super strict approach to keto based on the Atkins induction phase. Super strict, but very effective. It's strict, but it works. Other than that, we still have some tickets available for Dr. Westman's Keto Retreat, January 18th to the 20th in Beaufort, North Carolina. So if you are anywhere nearby or you can get anywhere nearby by then, do consider buying a ticket to that. And so details on all that below. And I will be at Metabolic Health Summit. That's the next event I'll be at after the Dr. Westman's Keto Retreat. I will be signing books. They are going to have a big pile of my Alzheimer's book there, and I will be signing. So if you are attending Metabolic Health Summit in Los Angeles, I think it's January 30th to February 2nd or so, come meet me, and I'm zipping it now. Let's get to the topic. Urine ketones. I have a video from a while back. It was one of the earlier videos I've done that was about measuring ketones, because people get completely bent out of shape over their ketone level. Am I in? Am I out? Is it 0.2? Is it 2.6? Is it 4.0? This video is not meant to address all of that stuff. If you want to learn about that, maybe I'll put a link to that individual video down below. And I've also written a very long classic Amy Berger encyclopedic length blog post on the topic of measuring ketones. So all the information is there. Today, I'm going to talk specifically about measuring urine ketones. Now, where do I start? I guess the reason I wanted to do this video is because I hear constantly, urine ketones are not reliable. It's not a reliable way to test. It's not accurate. If you've been keto for a long time, it doesn't work anymore. For the most part, that is not true. For the most part, all of that I just said is mythical. It's just not true. I am willing to concede that there might be some people here and there in rare circumstances who are in a deep level of ketosis as measured by blood or breath, and it's not registering on the urine ketone strip. But for it to not register at all, for that color change to not happen at all, and you're registering a relatively high level on your blood or breath, I just don't see that happening. I can concede that you might not see a very deep level of ketosis on your urine strip. Like maybe it's not matching up with your level of blood and breath ketones, but it should still change color enough that you can see, yes, there's ketones in my urine. Okay. If you are new to this and you don't even know what I'm talking about, what are you talking about, Amy? When you are on a ketogenic diet, and I mean a real ketogenic diet, not like, oh, I'm a little low carb, I'm dabbling, but when you are deliberately aiming to keep your total carbs low enough that your body is in the actual state of ketosis, there's ways to measure your level of ketones. You can measure them in blood, breath, or urine. Today, of course, we're talking about urine. And the way to measure it is you can go online or go to any drugstore and buy ketone test strips. They are usually kept with the diabetes supplies. Sometimes they're behind the counter and you might have to ask the pharmacist for them, but they're pretty much, in the US anyway, they're readily available just on the shelf with the diabetes supplies. I don't know how readily available this stuff is in other countries. So if you're watching this from outside the US, I don't really know what to tell you. Okay, so the way that you test is you have your little bottle of ketone test strips. This is one of the they're all kind of the same. This is one of the drugstore brands, but it comes with these little strips, and I know it's hard to see. My camera's a little weird sometimes. It's just a little strip, and there's a little reagent square at the top. It's very hard to see. It almost looks like the same color as the stick itself because it's so pale. It's a very, very pale peach kind of beige color. And when you urinate, you hold the stupid blurry camera. Okay. When you urinate, you would hold the strip, hold the reagent piece of it in your urine stream. You pee on the thing. And depending on the amount of ketones in your urine, the little reagent strip will change color. See, so you can see it's like very, very light sort of peach beige, getting darker and darker pink, almost to like a purpley black color almost. The darker the color, the higher the concentration of ketones in your urine. And the specific type of ketone that's measured in urine is called acetoacetate. There's 3 different either ketone molecules or ketone byproducts that get measured. In the urine, it's acetoacetate. In the breath, it's acetone, which is what's responsible for the keto breath, that really metallic, gross, nasty, whatever. There's a lot of different words for it. It's the acetone coming out in your breath. And the blood measures beta-hydroxybutyrate. So anyway, couple of things to tell you right off the bat. Lots of different colors. I know it's hard to see, I'm sorry, but most of you probably have used these already anyway, and you've seen this. But anytime you buy a box or jar of these ketone strips, your bottle will have this on there. So this comes right on the bottle. You can look at it yourself. And one of the first things to know is that darker doesn't necessarily mean better. It doesn't, like if you're here, this sort of lightish pink color, and you're like, oh, it's so low. Guess what? You're still in ketosis. If your reagent strip is changing color at all, if you notice the change at all, there's acetoacetate in your urine. Congratulations, you're in ketosis. If it's very, very dark, you could actually be dehydrated, and the ketones are just more concentrated in your urine because you're dehydrated and your urine doesn't have as much water in it. Or a lot of times if you take MCT oil or coconut oil that we know raises ketone levels, you'll see it be darker. Vinegar. I haven't talked about this much, but vinegar actually raises ketones a little bit, or at least I know for me, it darkens my urine ketone strip. So, and remember, this is in the blog post and the video I did about the general concept of measuring ketones. You don't get a prize if your ketones are darker. You don't win anything. There's no trophy. And having higher ketones or being darker on your urine strip because there's a higher level of acetoacetate in your urine does not mean you are going to lose more weight, and it does not mean you are going to lose weight faster. All it means is there's more acetoacetate in your urine, whoop-de-doo. Because remember, you can lose body fat without a high level of ketones, and you can have a high level of ketones and not lose fat. And remember, I've said this in numerous videos. I've done this. Me and my little mayonnaise addiction problem that I've talked about. If I eat half a jar of mayonnaise, you damn well better believe my ketone level is practically black in my urine. It's like super darker than I've ever seen it. Do you think I'm losing body fat mainlining like 1,000 or 2,000 extra calories from mayonnaise? No. So do not live and die by these colors. I still test pretty frequently with urine just to sort of like, am I there? Am I not? I don't really care that much about the color. It's really just an accountability thing for me. Like some people like to weigh themselves every day because it sort of gives them feedback, keeps them honest. They don't say, oh my God, I'm up a pound. What did I do wrong? I mean, some people do that. I'll do a whole other video on problems with the scale, maybe, like note to self, that's a good idea. I don't feel like a failure. I don't feel like a bad person. I don't feel ashamed if my color is kind of light. I'm really I just want to see, am I even in ketosis at all? And I usually am, but like I said, you don't, having a darker level doesn't mean your diet's working better. It doesn't mean you're going to lose more weight or lose it more rapidly. What seeing that darker color can do is motivate you and be like, oh yes, I'm like, yay, my ketones are high. At least you know at that point you are definitely in ketosis. Your body is definitely burning fat. Whether you're losing body fat is a different point, but you know at that point your insulin is low enough, your carb intake is low enough that your body, your wholesale metabolism is being fueled on fat. And that's actually something that Ben Bikman, if you follow him, Bikman, he's out of Brigham Young University. Here you got this Jewish girl watching this Mormon professor, but he's fabulous. That's what I love about keto. We don't have to agree about everything. We agree about so much biochemistry and physiology. Anyway, I love Dr. Bikman. He's so awesome. He doesn't really care about the ketone level for the purpose of the ketone level. He cares about ketones because they're kind of a proxy for insulin. If your ketone level is measurable at all, like I said, even at this sort of light pinkish color, if it's been a noticeable change at all, that's an indirect sign that your insulin is low. Your insulin is low enough for you to be making ketones, right? And that's a good sign. The main point of a ketogenic diet for most of us is not to chase high ketones. It's to keep blood sugar and insulin low. And so what else can I say? And so having even a small level of ketones tells you you're doing well. You're eating in such a way that you are accomplishing the keeping of the insulin low. Now, let's see. So much to say about this. Pro tip. I'll give you a little tip here. The reason I like urine testing for ketones is because it's the most economical. I am not made of money. What a big shock. Freelance writing doesn't exactly generate the big bucks. Why do you think I had to monetize the YouTube channel? I'm sorry about the ads, but it's actually helping a lot. Just click skip the ads, you know. If you want to kind of economize a little bit, buying the urine strips, it's relatively affordable. It's not that expensive, and especially compared to the blood testing strips, it's way cheaper. And they usually come with 50 in a jar. There's 50 to a jar. But again, I know it's hard to see. I'll hold it maybe against my shirt because it's darker and you're more able to see. The strip is normally this thick. I cut it in half the long way, like longitudinally, so to speak. Cut it in half. You get double the strip for the same price. So I know it's hard to see, but as long as there's any portion of that reagent strip on it, you can still use it, right? You just have to have enough of that reagent strip to be able to see the color change. If you have really steady hands, you could even cut this into thirds and triple the amount of strips that you have. But anyway, just cutting it in half the long way, you already have double the strips for the same amount of money. A little pro tip for you there. Now, just as a reminder, that does not work with the blood strips. You cannot cut the little blood testing strips in half. I hope you know that. They have to go into the meter. They have to be that perfect size and shape. So anyway, let's get back to the other issue that urine ketone testing doesn't work, or that it's unreliable, or that whatever, that if you've been on this diet for a long time, they're not reliable. Again, for most people, false, false, false. There may be some cases, for whatever reason, where it's not false. For most people, if you are in ketosis, they will change. So for somebody that's on a low-carb or ketogenic diet that's not seeing the color change, what could be going on? Why do people think that this stops working? I think the number one most common reason is probably that they're simply not in ketosis. This could be the case. Remember, I've done videos recently like stop kidding yourself about carbs, like get real about your carb intake. There might be someone who's I'm doing keto. Keto means a lot of different things to different people now. They might think they're doing keto because they're not eating bread and rice and pasta and apples and bananas, but they might just kind of sort of be doing low carb, and they might not actually be in the state of ketosis. And me, absolutely fully and emphatic about telling people not everybody needs a strict ketogenic diet. But if you think you're following a ketogenic diet and you're not registering, you are probably not quite as low in carbohydrate as you need to be for your individual tolerance, for your individual biochemistry to put you into the state of ketosis. So that's the number one place I would look. Am I overdoing the carbs? And overdoing the carbs can really truly be a matter of 5 or 10 grams. An extra serving of broccoli, and like that's a large serving for 5 or 10 grams, but you know what I mean, an extra little piece of something. It could very, very commonly be something like a low carb bar or some type of low carb cookie or product that's marketed as keto because it's made with almond flour and erythritol and monk fruit and coconut flour and what have you. And maybe it's very low in net carbs, but it's high in total carbs. And if you react to the sugar alcohols and maybe even the almond flour and the coconut flour, those aren't zero carbohydrate. They do have carbs. So even if you're eating products and foods that you think are keto, you might actually very much be exceeding your own personal level of carbohydrate that would keep you in ketosis. That's number one. Number two, and this I have to give my friend for credit for it. I didn't come up with this, but she brought up a very good point. She goes by Woo. It's the Woo on Twitter. She has a private account. She's actually an RN. She's a nurse. She's extremely protective of her online identity. But anyway, she has been following a ketogenic diet for about as long as I have. And she's way stricter than I am. She's maintaining, I think, over 100-pound loss. She's about this big around. She's tiny. She used to be obese. She used to have PCOS. Anyway, she's brilliant. She is brilliant when it comes to some of the biochemistry and metabolism and how all this works. The point that she brought up is there's actually a lot of user error. And what does she mean by this? People are just testing wrong. And you will see, I'm gonna read you the instructions. Anytime you get a bottle, or these bottles actually come in a larger box, they come with instructions. The instructions are there for a reason. So, number one, firmly hold end farthest away from test pad. Pass test pad through urine stream. The test pad, they're talking about that little reagent square. Number two, after 15 seconds, match the test pad to the color chart shown on the bottle for result. That's a really important point, and this is the point that girl Wu brought up. You have to wait. I have a feeling a lot of people are peeing on it, looking at it immediately, and it doesn't change, and they're like, oh, damn, I'm not in ketosis. Toss the strip in the trash. No, I've seen this myself. Sometimes it changes very quickly. Sometimes you really do have to give it a good 10 or 12 seconds, and this jar even says 15. And 10 seconds is a lot longer than you think it is. When you're just standing there in the bathroom staring at the thing, 10 seconds is a long time. 15 seconds is even longer. Do the math. 15 is longer than 10, right? So, don't just pee and look at it immediately and make your decision. Give it several seconds. Now, I have noted that when my level is higher, like when I'm in the very dark range, it tends to change very quickly. But when it's kind of in the middle range or just light, it takes a little while for it to reach its full color. So I think Wu is probably right about that. There's my camera getting blurry again. Probably a lot of people don't take that message to heart, that you really do have to be patient and give it time. What else could be going wrong? They make a very, very big point about being careful not to touch the reagent strip at all. I'm touching it right now. I don't think that's really all that big a deal. If your hands are dry and they don't have any stuff on them, like a dry powder or something. If you've got oil or water or shampoo or God knows what's in your bathroom, if that gets on here, yeah, that can interfere. But if my hands are perfectly clean, they're totally dry, it's not going to affect that. And these bottles do come with expiration dates. Most of them, this one, you won't be able to see it on the camera, so I won't even show you, but it says date opened, colon, and you're supposed to write on the bottle when you opened it, because I think it says it's on the box, and it comes with a little insert that you can read. It's maybe 6 months or something that they guarantee that these will still be reliable and accurate. But it says expiration August 21, 2020. So this expires this summer. And presumably the reason they want you to write the expiration, the date that you open it, is because the more this is exposed to air, the more you open and close this, the more likely it is that contaminants or moisture, especially humidity, can get in here and potentially mess with the accuracy of the reagent strip. So the longer you've had it open, and the more days you've been doing this and exposing it to whatever, potentially that could mess with this. But and of course, they can't guarantee the accuracy past the expiration date. So that could be an issue. If you've had a jar of these laying around for 4 years because you were doing keto a long time ago, you fell off the wagon, you were on for a month, you fell off again, and but you know what? I'm going to dig in the far deep recesses of my bathroom closet, and here's the ketone strips that I bought a decade ago. Let me test. Do yourself a favor. I know I just talked about economizing. Throw the really old ones out and get a new jar. That being said, if it's past its expiration date, but you've never opened it, it's totally fresh, never been touched, I think it's probably still good to use. I would not worry about it. I've used strips that are long since expired and they still work. So I wouldn't worry too much about making yourself crazy about, oh my God, it expired last week. They'll still work. They put expiration dates on eggs. Eggs don't really expire. That's a way for you to throw out a perfectly good, perfectly safe dozen eggs and go buy more. Now, I'm not a food scientist, of course. You do what you want to do, eat what you want to eat. Expiration dates, sell-by dates are very, very iffy, if you ask me. So now let's talk about the not in ketosis thing again. Let's go back to that. When I said that's probably really the main thing, is you're just not in ketosis. And guess what? That's okay. If you are satisfied with the results you're getting, then who cares whether or not you're in ketosis? Who cares? It doesn't matter. Because remember, having the higher ketones doesn't get you better results. Having lower ketones doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. If you are one of these people who it never ever changes and you're doing everything right, there's no reason you shouldn't be in ketosis. If you have a blood or breath meter, then do all three, right? When you feel the urge to urinate, go urinate and test the urine. When you're done with your business, test your blood, test your breath, and see, do they all line up? Are the blood and breath confirming that you're not in ketosis? Or are you one of the very, very rare exceptions where maybe your beta hydroxybutyrate in blood is elevated and this isn't changing color whatsoever? I can almost guarantee, though, that I sort of said this before, if you are having substantially elevated in the blood or breath, you will see at least some change on here. Now, that girl Wu, something else she mentioned is that if you're finding that it's like very, very, very light, then you're still in ketosis. It might be almost unnoticeable, like light to the point you think it maybe changed color, but you can't tell because it looks so close to the original color of that reagent strip. And you test your blood, you might be below 0.5 millimolar in the beta hydroxybutyrate. So you are absolutely positively still in ketosis, but it's just that level, it's a relatively lowish level. It's not enough to trigger the change on the strip. So if you're higher, maybe above 0.5, maybe certainly above 1.0, you would see a larger, darker change. And I think a lot of this is speculation, but it kind of makes sense to me. And do remember, though, that if the normal blood ketone level for most people eating a mixed, i.e. higher carb diet, is 0.0, or let's be generous and it's 0.1. I've seen that in published papers. Like after an overnight fast, some people will wake up, even on a regular standard diet. If let's say you ate dinner at 7 or 8 p.m. and you woke up at 7 a.m., it's been 12 hours since you ate anything. Some people will wake up in a very mild state of ketosis. In fact, I think I've mentioned this before. I think morning breath, that morning breath, I think it's actually keto breath in some people. The point is, those people waking up in that very, very low state of ketosis could be at like 0.1, 0.2. So if you are at 0.3 or 0.4, you might be thinking, oh, that's so low, I'm not even above 0.5. Well, guess what? If you're at 0.4, you're already 4 times higher than someone not on a ketogenic diet. So 0.4 is certainly high enough to prove that you are most definitely in ketosis, right? Even 0.3, multiply the 0.1 times 3, what do you get? 0.3. So you're still significantly higher than somebody not on a ketogenic diet. So even if, you're registering nothing or registering very, very light, don't be discouraged. Now, I guess that's kind of all I had to say. Let me give it some thought before I end in case there's anything I forgot. Really the main point I wanted to make is that if you're on a ketogenic diet and you want to just, take a look every now and then, I think urine is a good way to go because it is the cheapest. It's the most accessible, so to speak. You can go to any corner drugstore, again, at least in the US. You can buy them anywhere, cut them in half, save money. I've been eating keto a long time. I've been eating low carb a long time. I bounce in and out, but they still work for me. And maybe somebody could argue because I haven't been super strict keto for 15 years, I've been in and out. I've always been low carb, but not strict keto. Maybe that's why mine still work, because I haven't been in that high ketogenic state the whole time. I still disagree. I still think that's a myth, because this girl Wu and plenty of other people I know have actually been in ketosis, in the actual ketogenic state, the entire time for over a decade, and they will still change the color. So I just think there's a lot of myths out there about this. Do you have to test? No, absolutely not. Again, if you're happy with your results, it doesn't matter if you're in ketosis or not. And it doesn't matter what the level of ketones are if you are in ketosis. If you just want to mess around, mess around. I guess that's really all I had to say. I'm not going to lie. I do get a little boost when I see the darker color, and I know it doesn't mean anything, but it still keeps me on the straight and narrow, just gives me that extra little boost of motivation, that extra little kick. I have been actually tightening up my diet because I really, I would like to change a few things about my physique, and it's not going to happen just half-assing it. So I am no longer half-assing it, and I'm going to say that's about it for this video. 28 minutes. Yeah, that's probably more than enough said about urine ketones. No, I guess one more thing. Never just measure once a day, right? If you're because this is the most economical, measure more than once a day, because you might test first thing in the morning and it's not that dark, and then 10 o'clock at night it's dark purple. So don't rely on the measurement at one point in time out of a 24-hour day. And I would say the same thing about blood, except blood, depending on where you buy them, like a cheap blood strip is like $1 a piece. So it's not really that cost effective for many of us to test. I couldn't really afford to test multiple times a day with blood, but urine, especially if you cut them in half, it's really not a big deal to test 2 or 3 times a day. And you don't have to do it forever. Do it for a week or two just to see what's happening with you. It's not something you need to do for your lifetime. But like I said, if you are discouraged and demotivated because you barely see the change, just test again, have a fatty meal, test again, wait a couple of hours, go to the gym, test again. Oh, I did forget one thing. I just said, go to the gym, work out, test again. I've been meaning to write an email to Stephen Finney. I happen to have his email address to ask him a question, because don't ask me why I did this, but I once, when I was really, really sweaty, I took one of these urine ketone test strips and I ran it through my sweat. And I'll be darned if the thing didn't turn dark pink. So I'm guessing that you can measure acetoacetate in sweat, right? And why not? Sweat, not to be gross or anything, sweat and urine probably have a very, very similar chemical composition. They are just being excreted through different parts of the body, right? One is coming from your kidneys and you're coming out your urethra. One is coming out of your sweat glands. So I've been meaning to look that up as to whether or not there's acetoacetate in sweat. But I will tell you, unless that was a fluke thing, my sweat had ketones in it. So that's it. Shutting up now. See you next time. Remember, do check out all the links that will be below. And don't forget that I do individual consultations. If you would like help either getting started, if you're brand new to low carb or keto or even paleo, something like that, or you've been doing this a while and you are not happy with the results you're getting, do book a consultation. So check out all the links and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.